Hello, this is Rocky Patel, Pranic Lifestyle, and today I'd like to talk about service and what it really means to do service consistently. In like Arhatic Yoga, we're taught to do service, minimum of 2 hours a week. A lot of people, they understand it as 2 hours and that's it, and but it's actually 2 hours plus. And the more meditations you're doing, especially Arhatic Yoga, you actually should do more than 2 hours. And I do service that fits my lifestyle. But one easy way to do service is basically just doing Twin Hearts every day, but every day. And if you have extra time, do it twice a day, which would take about an hour. And it generates lots of good karma, and you don't have to go anywhere. And so that's one way to do service. Another one is to volunteer at like the local food banks. Like the one I just came from. It's called Harvesters, and I've been going here for years. And my life really just started to exponentially take off spiritually, financially, relationships. When I found ways to do service that fit like my schedule. And I used to do a lot of soup kitchen work, like 2-3 times a day doing soup kitchen work. And, we were able to serve maybe 700 people a day doing that. And, basically it's just like a cafeteria where they have, they actually cook the food and serve the food, and it's just basically like a free cafeteria. And, I would help cook the food, serve the food, clean up. And, the contamination was a lot though, because I was like amongst the people, like the people that really need help. And, I'd always be in there doing healings and like, just interacting with them. So there would be a lot of cords and contamination. And, I was spending my whole day just basically, doing service, which was fine. Because, when I was doing the service, money would come in without me having to chase it or really do anything. Like I would go and do service, and then I would basically sell stuff where people want to buy something, or just send me money. And then I found this place called Harvesters, where they're feeding like 80,000 people a week, on a weekly basis, like 80,000. And before, like what I was doing, we might reach, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 people in a week. And, so the good karma, was a certain amount of good karma. Because, not only we go to help serve the food and cook, but, we'd have the food blessed and energized. And that's something we'd always do when we go to do the feedings, was bless and energize the food with life-giving energy, purifying light, divine healing energy, and, good thought forms. And then I discovered the Harvesters place, where, they were serving, at that time, it was like 60,000 people a week. So it's like 240,000 people a month. At that time, now it's, probably 300,000 people or more every month. And so every, I don't know, about 3 to 4 months, they're touching the lives of 1 million people. And like this place here is a massive food bank, and it's like massive. I mean, it's as big as like a Costco, or a Costco and a half, or like Sam's Club, or a very big Walmart. It's like bigger than that, with food stacked to the ceiling, 30-foot ceilings. And there's like forklifts, and like many forklifts driving around in there. And once I started serving there, I didn't have to go as many hours, because I was leveraging my time. because we were reaching way more people than we were, spending many, many more hours than that. And here at I try to go 4 times a week, 2 hours at a time to the food bank. And, we go in there to help, sort the food and when people donate it at the grocery store into big old barrels, they end up over here at the warehouse, and then we have to sort it out, into big old big old containers, where they're basically boxed up and then sold off to other food pantries, or it's like a central food bank. So the food goes from here to many, many, many other food banks and many, many, many schools and 15 counties around here. So they're reaching the lives of millions of people. And so, I hadn't been going to this certain place for a long time. But I had other ways I was doing service though. I do a lot of work with, the water and, using the mantras and stuff like that. But I hadn't been going to the food bank necessarily up until a couple months ago. And I was like, hey, I better get back in there consistently, at the food bank. And then, wow, it's just life changing. Just, increasing the service just a little bit. And I'd already been doing tons of service, healings, 10, 15, 20 healings a day. And, doing my twin hearts and all my meditations and, other ways that I do service. Maybe we'll talk about that at another time. But I found a way that fit my lifestyle. And so all you got to do is just go out and search these places on the internet, like Food Bank near me, or, Soup Kitchen near me, or just basically soup kitchens in Kansas City. Because, when I first started doing the feeding, I was out in California helping out with the feeding programs out there. And, we were feeding, could be 200 people a day, where we're going and buying the food, taking to the location, and then distributing it. I don't recommend just buying food and passing it on the street. I've done that before, and man, we got basically just surrounded by people grabbing and getting all scratched up and stuff. So it's not the best place to go, just on the street, unless you're just buying a bag of food and giving it to one person at a time. And when I moved back to Kansas City, I was like, I need a place to serve. I need to go, and my soul was thirsting for service, but I didn't know where to go. So I found, just through asking around and the Salvation Army is one place that it's in most cities. America's Second Harvest is another big one. But I just basically started calling around and compiling all these different feedings and the times. And I started out with just one feeding, and they were feeding 100 people probably. And that was one day a week. And they didn't really want me there. Sometimes these groups are a little bit clannish. They don't like outside people. But I got a way to get in though. And I'll tell you about that in a second. But I was like, hey, are there any other feedings down here? And they're like, yeah, the Salvation Army over there feeds every day at noon. I was like, cool. I'm in. And I went over there, and, I started going every day. And, they fed maybe 150, 175 people a day. And then I was like, hey, is there any other feedings over here, around here? And they're like, yeah, there's this place over there, this shelter, and there's one big one downtown where they're serving 500 people a day. And I was like, 500 people a day? And I was like, okay. So I started going to that every day, Monday through Friday at noon to 2. And I did that for years. And then, at the same time, I found out about an evening feeding. They're like, hey, this place, St. James, they got they feed at evening time. So I show up over there, and I come in the door, And I was like, hey, do you need any volunteers? And they were like, oh my God, we were praying for help, like supervisors to actually, there they had like a supervisor each day of the week who would basically oversee the feeding portion of it. And they're like, hey, we need somebody on Fridays to basically, run the feeding, run the kitchen. And basically he's like, here, here's the keys, this, it's yours. And I was like, okay, cool. And then so for, I don't know, a period of several years, I was doing the noon feeding and the evening feeding, as well as like feedings on the weekends. And sometimes there was even a third feeding after the evening feeding. And then on Monday, there was like, a big feeding at nighttime. But I basically had this schedule like, hey, if I want to serve today in the daytime, I can go here. If I want to go at nighttime, I can go here. Monday they have a place here. Saturday and Sunday, there's a place over here. And then so I did that, for several years. And then I found out about this Harvester's place, which I always knew about, but I just never went down there. And then I went down in there and I was like, wow, this is amazing. The amount of people they're serving. Because, when we go in there, we're not only like going in there to sort the food. We're moving pallets of food around in there. But we're having all the food blessed and energized. Like massive amounts of food. They're feeding hundreds of thousands of people. And we're going in there and, having the food blessed. So, we got that extra good karma coming in from it. The message for today is just basically find your unique way to serve and do that. I mean, it could be having like meditation clinics, healing clinics, stuff like that. And, but any opportunity to serve, don't pass it up. I mean, whether it's volunteering at the hospital, then there was also a free medical clinic where I was in there, doing shifts in the free medical clinic. But that was a little bit slow for me because it was, like dealing with one person at a time, and it was a little bit slow. I was used to like big action, like, just feeding hundreds of people and like tons of food and stuff like that. And I also like did food routes where, we're picking up food from Whole Foods and taking it to the shelter. Like one day, the lady who ran one of the big feedings is like, hey, do you want to take a day to go pick up food at 8 in the morning? from and it was an hour drive from me. So I was working nights at that time too. So I'd work all night and then like go at like 7 in the morning to pick up carload of food, basically just 10, 12 carts of food, milk, bakery stuff. But a lot of places like Panera Bread, they actually give away their food at nighttime that they're going to throw away anyways. And so through something called the Good Samaritan Act, they're allowed to like donate food that could be almost outdated or like needs to be thrown away. But if it's going to go to like a shelter, they're exempt from like any rules. So like basically you just have to like get these routes, these food routes where like, hey, every Wednesday or every evening I'm going to go by Panera Bread and pick up the food and then drop it off at the shelter. And that's one way to, to do service. So I had all these different ways to do service. And these are on top of like, doing Twin Hearts and like, and then we also had the clinics too, the meditation clinics and healing clinics. So yeah, I mean, this massive service is the key to like making your life where the money's coming in smooth, the health is good, everything is good. So the more service you do, the easier things get, especially when things get like tight in your life or like things are happening. And it's like, whoa, there's some karma manifesting here. Well, you just need to increase their service. And that could just be doing more Twin Hearts. All right. Sorry for the long video. Talk to you guys later from Product Lifestyle. Bye-bye.